Hey. So I've had some comments about the marijuana issue today, and one of the questions were about potential legal action regarding the Cole memorandum. So I'm going to ask Bob to talk about that issue.
Thanks, Governor, and Happy New Year, everybody. It's too soon to say in terms of a legal response to the action taken by Attorney General Sessions today. Obviously, our team's looking at it. I want to consult carefully with, obviously, the Governor, who's got strong views on this, like I do, and legislative leaders like Representative Sawyer. So, too soon to say, I think, what we do from a legal standpoint with this action that is deeply disappointing, but frankly, I don't think it comes as a great surprise. Attorney General Sessions has made it abundantly clear that what his views are when it comes to legalization of marijuana. I guess just the one point I'll put out there that is there is appropriately a lot of focus in what Attorney General Sessions had to say today about the Cole memorandum, but in his statement, in his letter today, in his memo today, he of course also sweeps away the Ogden Memorandum from 2009, which, as you know, the Ogden Memorandum is sort of the Cole Memorandum equivalent for medical marijuana. And that was a memorandum in 2009, the Ogden Memorandum, that said, hey, for states that have medical marijuana, Department of Justice guidance is that is not a priority, right? That's not a priority. Attorney General Sessions has swept that away with this statement today as well. I think we're up to 28 or 29 states that have medical marijuana in this country. That's breathtaking to me. We're talking about cancer patients. I don't need to make the case, you know it well. But I just want to highlight that for you as well, is that I find that especially troubling as well.
Thank you, Governor. Thank you, Bob Ferguson. I've been speaking with our legislative leaders on both sides of the aisle today, and I just wanted to reiterate, although they're on their way and they are not here, we do stand united. I think Republicans and Democrats also wrote a letter to Jeff Sessions asking to meet with him. He's refused. And over the last 5 years, with Republicans in control of the Senate, you have not seen an effort to dismantle our system, because we, as a state, are united in understanding that the hundreds of millions of dollars that we raise every year is helping fund our schools, it's helping fund our opioid addiction clinics, it helps fund children's health care, and we have been extremely united in regulating this in a very bipartisan way. And so I think if over a million voters voted for Donald Trump, this legislature is very committed to work together and do what's in the best interest of the state, and that includes keeping our system legal. And with us, who just joined us, is Senator Rivers, who I think could speak to the same effect.
Thank you, Representative Sawyer. I apologize for my tardiness. Well, we started a grand experiment a few years ago, and we worked really hard to honor the principles that were laid out in the Cole Memorandum, that we were going to do our level best to keep marijuana out of the hands of kids, that we were going to prevent leakage, that we were going to try to honor the will of the people in the initiative, while at the same time trying to be wise and societally sound in the implementation of the program. As Representative Sawyer pointed out, this has been a bipartisan effort. We don't agree on everything, but what we do agree on is that Washington's a great place to live, and that we anticipate that we will maintain our system and our program. The comments that were made by Attorney General Sessions last fall were based on incorrect information. I would dare say misguided. It is my hope that we have an opportunity to learn in greater detail what he has in mind, because I believe that today's decision is equally misguided. And I believe that by working together, we can come up with something that will be successful for both the feds and the state. Thank you.
One comment, just listening to our legislators on this, I appreciate your leadership on this, thank you. I assume Mr. Sessions would say, well, he's very concerned about drug usage, and this is what drives him to try to overturn the will of Washington voters. You know, if that's true, it certainly would be useful if he stopped trying to strip health care from the tens of thousands of Washingtonians who depend on their health care to get treatment for drug addiction. We're trying to fight this opioid addiction. That's the place we ought to really be focusing on a bipartisan basis right now. But this administration simultaneously tell us how much they're worried about marijuana drug usage, but they're trying to take away the health care from tens of thousands of Washingtonians who depend on their health care insurance to get treatment for their opioid and other drug problems. We wish they would be more concerned about an epidemic that is eating our country alive rather than chasing the past on marijuana. And we hope we're successful in that regard. Questions to anyone?
To you, General Ferguson, could you elaborate a little bit more on that 2009 memo that you mentioned, and what it might mean for medical marijuana patients who have...
Can you spell Ogden?
Ogden, O-G-D-E-N, I believe, the Ogden Memorandum of 2009. So I didn't quite get into this and elaborate on the last part of
What
that.
it said and what it might mean for medical marijuana patients as opposed to those who use the recreational market, if any.
Well, the Ogden Memorandum, 2009, think of it as the Cole Memorandum equivalent for medical marijuana, in which essentially the Department of Justice was saying to U.S. attorneys around the country, this is a low priority. Like the name said, this is not a priority. I don't have the exact language in front of me, but the Ogden Memorandum of 2009 on medical marijuana made it crystal clear that the Department of Justice's guidance to U.S. attorneys all around the country was when it comes to medical marijuana users in states that have legalized medical marijuana, that's a low priority for you, U.S. attorneys, to prosecute or take any action. So again, think of it as a Cole Memorandum equivalent for medical marijuana in states that have legalized medical marijuana. I believe we're up to 28 states or so that now have medical marijuana, maybe that's 29. In terms of what this means, you know, I've just been grappling with this in the last hour and a half, like the governor and legislative leaders and all of you, so I don't want to get out ahead of my team, or I want to be thoughtful about and measured about our response. So I have had a chance this morning to talk to Noah Purcell, our Solicitor General, of course, who's given a lot of thought to these issues. So we may have more to say in the coming days, but obviously we'll want to be working closely with the folks who are here and others as well before saying, and to be candid, I'm not sure from reading what the Attorney General Sessions wrote today. I mean, it leaves wide open, what exactly does he mean by doing this? I'm just being candid, right? It leaves wide open. Yes, I understand he's removed the Cole Memorandum and the Ogden Memorandum, but what does that exactly mean? And puts that in with the U.S. attorneys, how will they respond? There's more unanswered questions here than questions answered by the Attorney General's actions today. I guess just to build off the previous comments though, what is maddening, okay, is that this is a big issue, right? You're sensing that from, it's a big issue. And in grappling with big issues, it helps to actually have a conversation. The Attorney General will not meet with legislative leaders, as you heard. He will not meet with the governor. He will not meet with me. Basically, he won't do it. Eric Holder met with the governor and myself, I think within a couple weeks of him taking office as Attorney General, where we could talk about marijuana legalization. I think the Senator mentioned the letter from Attorney General Sessions to Washington State, in which he just had his facts wrong. There's no way to sugarcoat that. I think one of his examples was saying, hey, we've got a problem with Washington State because you have a great market. You haven't brought together your medical system and your recreational system. You relied on a dated report. There's just one problem. Legislative leaders like the senator here have put a lot of time into getting a solution and bring those systems together. He had his facts wrong. He had an old report. So frankly, it's hard to find solutions when that's the approach of the other side. We're still all willing to meet to try and get greater clarity on what exactly he means. Sorry for the long answer on that.
So, just building on your response to his question, sort of two-parter here, a la your thing over there. First of all, former Attorney Durkin mentioned at one point to reporters that she thought local attorneys, state attorneys, had rather limited tools to enforce this, and that, especially from a politics perspective, it might not be a very effective way for the DOJ to combat legal marijuana. I was hoping you might comment on that idea, first of all, that this gives them the power to go after individuals, but that, in the larger scheme, And the second kind of part of that question is about the power that the state has. And I was just curious whether the state realistically has an avenue to challenge something that isn't a new policy per se, but is the withdrawal of an old policy. And in fact, the withdrawal of an old non-policy. It was not a policy, it was a policy not to have a policy. Could you sue to stop them from not having a non-policy?
Sure. So two-part question, I guess taking the latter one first. Look, there is zero chance I would comment about any potential legal action without having a conversation with the gentleman to my left and others as well. So that's, we just got it. We're just taking a look at it. I'm just not going to weigh in without talking to my team and really understanding it. As frustrated as I am by it, I want to be thoughtful about our approach and make sure that we're having the right conversations. In terms of the U.S. authority of the U.S. attorneys, they have broad authority to enforce federal law in their jurisdictions. That's just a fact. I'm not sure I can really say much more than that, right? They have a lot of authority in terms of what kind of cases they bring, how they prioritize their cases. Those are important players in our legal framework here in the state and around the country, and they have a lot of authority. But I don't think I can really speak beyond that other than stating, I think, what is obvious, which is they have a lot of authority. Now, in Washington State, is there strong bipartisan support for our system here? Yes. Will that play into influencing the U.S. attorneys of the Western District or Eastern District as they make their decisions on whether to prosecute or not? I would hope so, right? That they'd be mindful of the views of Republicans, Democrats across our state in supporting the will of the voters here in our state.
Would you be worried at all about enforcement and prosecutions against Washington's licensed marijuana operators, processors, growers, and dealers? Because the federal government doesn't need to go very far to get a list of where they are.
This is, I was actually thinking about the question that I knew you were going to ask. What should we tell Washingtonians about giving them advice on how to handle their own personal lives or the businesses right now? And it's difficult because this is essentially just a creation of uncertainty that's been created by this action of Mr. Sessions. Mr. President, go back to your button. Serious subject. So there is uncertainty. So what do we advise Washingtonians on how to act in regard to this uncertainty? So none of us can give people certainty right now for many different reasons that we've talked about. But I will just sort of give you my one governor's real-world belief here. We should not be intimidated on this issue by the Trump administration. We should believe that we can still control our own destiny. We should believe that an uproar of democratically expressed sentiment can defeat the Trump administration. It has happened on numerous occasions already. We should, in my book, not push the panic button on either your individual lives or your businesses. That we should continue down expressing the will of Washington voters in this regard. So at this moment, I can't give really legal advice to any Washingtonian. But I would say that given our ability to defeat terrible ideas by the Trump administration and our track record of success, that we ought to figure out we should have confidence in our ability to do this again. It might come from just the passivity and inaction of whoever ends up being the local attorney. But that person's going to have a hard time walking down the street in the state of Washington if they decide to go back to the previous century on marijuana policy. And they just might want to think about that. So my view is, let's not be intimidated, let's control our own destiny here.
Governor, how much damage do you think,
Yes.
how much damage does the uncertainty created today by A.G. Sessions do to our state's marijuana industry and the significant amount of money that is going into the general fund from that industry?
Well, it depends on how people react to this, so I can't predict that. But if people have the same view as I do, it may not be much, because people will continue to have confidence that the will of Washingtonians will be followed, and that science will be followed, and the evidence that this is not harming our youth will be followed, and that will work out. If people largely believe that, probably not going to significantly change things. That's sort of my feeling at the moment.
For processors and growers.
Yeah, we're trying to get everybody to have a first shot here. Yes?
So Governor, what can the state do? Should we see all of a sudden federal agents walking into recreational stores, walking into homes? What can the state provide as far as any kind of assistance? Is there a potential of having state troopers standing in their way? What can the governor and the attorney general do?
We're just going to give everybody Bob Ferguson's home phone number. Call him up. So we're still thinking about options in this regard. The one thing I can say is obviously we're not going to, use local law enforcement, at least Washington State Patrol, to try to go off the deep end with Jeff Sessions. I can tell you that. So he's not going to have any help from state in that regard. In that regard. Other than that, we've just got to look at options, and we can't answer that.
Attorney General Ferguson.
Just a second, David has a question.
I just wanted to add that, last year I introduced a couple of bills, but in anticipation of action, that basically would create a sanctuary state where not only would State Patrol not help, but no local law enforcement would help. So I think our number one thing that we can do as a state is make sure that the feds are isolated on this and that we're not using our resources to help take down our legal systems. That's something we'll be doing this session.
But if I can follow, what if federal agents do go in? What protections do the now legitimate businesses have?
I think that's going to be a conversation that we'll be having with our Attorney General about what the state interest is in defending those people, whether they're having cases against not just them, but in-rim cases against the property that they own. We'll have a conversation about what the state's role is in defending those people. I know we can't talk about what our plans are at this point as we're still forming our opinions.
A question for Attorney General Ferguson.
Let me have some of this. These are hypotheticals we can't answer, but we can answer what we do know, which is this, that an uproar of resistance against the Trump administration can work because we have seen it work on multiple occasions. And we should all be dedicated to that uproar of resistance on this wrong-headed, backwards, antediluvian, from below the Mason-Dixon line by Jeff Sessions, and we should fight it. And when we do that, we can succeed. So I think we just need to focus on that on a bipartisan basis, and hopefully we will succeed.
Quick question for Attorney General. In previous issues against Trump administration, you've dealt with the other AGs. And you said you've spoken with the Solicitor General's office already, but have other AGs reached out to you already, or have you reached out to Attorney Generals in other states on this?
Yeah, thanks for that question. I've not had a direct conversation with other AGs yet. That'll be happening very soon. We have a work group that we established shortly after Washington legalized marijuana to work with AGs in other states that legalized marijuana or are considering it to talk about the legal issues. So those will not be new conversations. We're in regular contact and have been for as long as I've been Attorney General and working on this issue. So that won't be new. But no, those conversations, I've not had those conversations. Frankly, I haven't had a chance to even check my messages yet this morning. So but those will be happening soon. I guess just one more thing I will say to maybe just Keith, your question or others is, I won't get into hypotheticals, but I mean, as deeply disappointing as Attorney General's statement is, or his memo is, I mean, just keep in mind, it's not exactly a shock, right? I mean, what was written there, a member of his team could write in 25 minutes. I mean, that's not an exaggeration. It's very short. It just says, hey, we're not going to use the Cole memo anymore. We're not going to use the Ogden memo. U.S. attorneys, you've got your discretion. I mean, I just want to put this in some context. He wasn't, I think to earlier questions, announcing something broader than that. We are now taking an enforcement action. DOJ is doing X. We are telling you to do Y. None of that is there. From my standpoint, I don't want to say I'm a little surprised it took him a year to put this out, but just given his views, which are very clear, his unwillingness to meet with us, his unwillingness to sort of deal with the real facts on the ground here in our state, I can't say it's a surprise. And as serious as it is, and believe me, we all take this very, very seriously, there were other directions he could have gone at this point that he chose not to.
We heard from Senator Rivers and from the governor that no anticipated changes are going to happen in the community really right now. I mean, so what assurance can you offer to voters in the state of Washington that while you're addressing this obnoxious proposition by the Trump administration, you won't lose sight of the paramount duty to fully fund education, to address our opioid crisis, our homeless crisis, our problems with Western State where we're being sanctioned. I mean, what assurance do you offer that we won't be sidetracked into this fight and lose sight of the real problems, the primary problems you got to solve in Washington State?
Was that?
Senator Rivers, would you address that, and as you address it, would you just also talk about how much money marijuana brings to the budget and how important that is to the things that he is talking about?
Right, so first of all, the assurance that this one issue will not sideline the rest of the myriad of very, very important issues that we'll be dealing with. It's really funny, the reason that I'm dressed the way I am today is because I was up here on other legislative business and this just kind of popped up. So no, Jake, I did not know this was happening today. But there are so many things going on, and this has just become sort of commonplace where we have to deal with these blips. But I can tell you, in the scheme of things, that this is not the #1 burning issue that's facing the state. And we all know that. We know we have mental health, we have an opioid crisis that we all know those things. And this is part because, as you rightly pointed out, it's significant. I think we'll top $750 million in revenue at the end, or by the end of this year. What that tells me, and this is really important, I didn't support the initiative because I was very concerned about it. But when I look around and I see the money from revenue that has flowed in from citizens making a choice to legally purchase marijuana, these aren't people who woke up one day and said, hey, it's legal, I think I'll go buy some pot. These are people who were supporting the black market before largely. So we have almost eradicated the black market in Washington state. Why would we go away from that? Why would we change that and throw our doors open once again to all kinds of illegal activity? So it's a significant amount of money that is spent on treatment, money that is spent on education, money that is spent on our youngest learners. The money is going everywhere, and rightly or wrongly, we need that money to take care of the people of our state.
We have time for one more question.
Attorney General Ferguson, where are you and other state attorney generals on crafting a legal response to the FCC's decision to repeal Obama-era net neutrality regulations?
And so I missed the first part of that. What was the question?
Oh, sorry. I said, where are you and other state attorney generals on crafting a legal response to the FCC's decision to repeal Obama-era net neutrality regulations?
I'll keep this short. The questions on net neutrality, where are AGs at in crafting a response. We're in regular contact with our other AGs who are interested in this issue and planning our litigation. So everything's moving forward as we announced, I think a couple weeks ago, right after net neutrality was rolled back. So we're moving forward. This will be decided ultimately in the courts. I'm comfortable with our track record. We haven't lost a case yet against the Trump administration. We make no guarantees of future success. We'll lose one eventually, but we wouldn't be bringing a case unless we felt confident in the outcome. Just one last on the final question before I turn it back over to the governor, and that is, we can all walk through them at the same time, right? Where there's multiple issues going on at any particular time. Just on this issue specifically on the legal side, I just want to really emphasize there's nothing that's happened today that is frankly a surprise or nothing that we're not prepared for. I mean, just take my word for it, but my legal team has been very focused on this issue from the day marijuana was legalized in Washington State 5 years ago. I mean, this is, we always knew this was possible. The team is very prepared. We work with other AGs. We have a structured organization of states with AGs who have legalized marijuana to talk about these issues. I mean, this has been going on for some time, so we are very, very well positioned from a legal standpoint. Our legal arguments have been crafted. We are prepared. We're not messing around. I mean, defending the will of the voters. I just want to be very, very clear about this. It's like we're all running around at the AG's office saying, hey, what should we do? The work's been done. We'll see what the Department of Justice wants to do next, or individual U.S. attorneys, but we are acutely aware of the challenge. We are determined to defend the will of the voters, and we are quite prepared for whatever might come next.
We have a bonus question from John Stang. General, bonus question? Thank you very much. How are you doing, Rachel?
We're good, thank you, Governor.
Thank you very much. Happy New Year. Take care.
Thanks for working this in. Yeah. Senator, thanks so much. Yeah, that worked.